You know what real gamers were doing on June 5th, 2025? We were playing our Nintendo Switch 2s. Okay?
I'm the angry vigilante here to fight the fight, breaking down the walls in the dead of night. No room for player essence or your fake parade. Harmon Smith, your empire's about to fade. Your empire's about to fade.
Oh boy, Harmon Smith is at it again. Let's find out.
Okay, we were playing Mario Kart, we were playing Street Fighter 6, we were playing like...
Okay, Harmon, you were playing some games, but then you talked all that crap about Street Fighter 6, so get to the point already.
Welcome Tour, we were playing like, Cyberpunk 2077.
Harmon, you shouldn't be taking so much pride that you were playing Welcome Tour. That is not something to be proud of. And if I remember correctly, you were also talking crap about Cyberpunk 2077.
We were playing all these games that were available on the console day one. And there were...
Okay, congratulations, you had a few games for day one release at launch. Get to the point already. I ain't got all damn day.
a wide range of people who weren't doing that. We were seeing a bunch of YouTubers, a bunch of game journos, and a bunch of shills on Twitter doing everything they possibly can to talk down towards the Nintendo Switch 2.
Oh, they were giving healthy criticism, nothing you don't know anything about. And Harmon, I'm pretty certain you also sat there and said that this is not a next console, this is just a Switch Pro.
We've seen all sorts of things, you know, allegations that games don't run well, that they don't play well, that there's something wrong with them, yada, yada. Yeah, we've all heard this, like...
Harmon, you, for once, you're actually using some facts, I guess, or some talking points instead of rambling on and on, but you yourself sat there and said that Street Fighter 6 doesn't play well.
Time and time and time again, in regards to this console, that like this idea that it's not going to do well. And one of the really funny copes I saw,
number one, Harmon, you're the only one that copes, and number two, nobody was sitting there saying that this console wasn't going to be successful. Now, it isn't going to sell as many as the Switch 1. I think you're the only one that actually thinks that. Anybody with an IQ above room temperature can see that one.
you know, towards the end of the day, was that a bunch of these people were going to Walmart and they were just like, oh no, there's a lot of units on the shelf.
There is, Harmon. You can currently go to many stores right now and get a unit.
I guess Nintendo Switch isn't doing well. You know, never mind that Walmart seems to be the retailer that has stocked the most units, but like...
Only time will tell if it's been as successful as you like to claim it is. We will have to wait to find out the sales numbers from Nintendo themselves.
Just look around. You know, like, are you really going to argue that, like, Nintendo Switch 2 isn't doing well?
Harmon, I don't think a lot of people are saying that it's not doing well. Maybe it's not selling as many as you guys all were saying it is. You guys were making it seem like it was going to sell out left and right.
When, like, so many people are buying and enjoying the console, you know?
Yes, Harmon, there are quite a few people that are enjoying this console. Let's move on. Get to your damn point already. Use some facts and examples, please.
Like, I played, like, a lot of Mario Kart day one, you know? I played Street Fighter. I played Welcome Tour. You know, I enjoyed my console.
Even though you talk crap about Street Fighter 6 and Cyberpunk 2077. But yes, we all know that you love the Welcome Tour. We all knew you were going to pay the $10. You were literally the only one that supported it not being bundled in.
And I will be getting a lot more mileage out of it in the future. So this idea that people are...
No shit, we didn't know you were going to play it more. We all thought that you enjoyed the PC or a PlayStation or something. We didn't know that you were a Nintendo fanboy.
Trying to downplay this console and trying to say that it's a failure, it's just going to blow up in their faces.
Harmon, I have never heard anybody actually say that this isn't going to be a failure. But when it comes to you, you sit there and say it's going to sell more than the Switch 1. Most of us sit there and say no. Well, pretty much all of us say no, that's not going to happen. Because that's a very rare thing to even hit at that point. Only 3 consoles have ever came close to hitting those numbers, and the Switch was one of them.
In the most absurd way imaginable. Like... they really are, like, hinging all of their bets, all of their credibility on this idea that, like, oh, the Switch 2, it won't do as well as the Switch 1, you know, completely ignoring the fact that it doesn't have to, but...
it's not going to do as well as the Switch 1. And you are correct, it doesn't have to. But if that's the case, why are you getting all triggered because people are saying that it's not going to do as well? Because, Harmon, you do think it has to. In your mind, you automatically think it's going to do well just because it's Nintendo.
It's remarkable seeing the lengths these people have gone to try and downplay the Switch. You know, complaining about the games, complaining about Mario Kart,
The complaints about Mario Kart are very fair, Harmon. That game is overpriced. The open world aspect is bearing. It's a little boring. The P-switches are very repetitive. They get boring after a little bit. They are fun at first, but unfortunately, there's no incentive to do so. Whoopity-doo, you get a magical sticker. No one cares.
About, like, you know, all this arbitrary nonsense, you know, doing all this stuff to try and gaslight you, like, don't believe your lying eyes.
Harmon, please give examples. How are they gaslighting you? You always love to throw these terms out there, but you never give any facts or examples to back them up. They're not gaslighting you. It's called healthy criticism.
You know, ignore all the huge lines of people getting Switch 2s, you know, ignore how many people are picking these things up.
Harmon, at launch, there were huge lines of people for the Switch. There were huge lines of people for the PS5, the Xbox Series X. Pretty much every console at launch is going to have a huge line of people. I guarantee you can look at any console at launch for the most part. Well, in modern, we're going to go with modern time. In modern time, since the PS3 will say, I guarantee you will see pictures of long lines.
Ignore, while, you know, I try and gaslight you into thinking the console, ooh, nobody's talking about it.
Hey, you're the one that said it, not me.
It was sad. It was pathetic, and it really should be called out for what it is, as just a very blatant example of just how corrupt the gaming journalism sphere actually is.
Welcome to journalism, Harmon. This happens in pretty much every walk of life. It's not specifically just towards Nintendo. There are game journalists that are good for Nintendo, and there are some that are bad. You gotta take the bad with the good. That's just the way life goes.
Like how desperate they were to try and continue this narrative that Nintendo Switch was failing, or that it wasn't doing well, or that people weren't hyped for it.
The only one I know that was sitting there saying that no one was hyped for it was Dreamcast guy, and no one really takes that man seriously anyways.
They are in for a very, very, very rude awakening.
Well, I would sit there and say so are you, but you have to understand that it's a rude awakening.
Over the next couple of years. Especially in the PC space. Because now that I've actually played Switch 2 and I've seen the mouse and seen how good it is, specifically the fact that it is better.
Harmon, just because you can use a mouse for the Switch 2 doesn't mean it's going to make it better for the PC. There are still the things that the PC can do that are far superior than the Switch 2. Guess what? You can't mod on the Switch 2. You can't download mods for your games.
Than typical PC mice. Like, it's over. You know, like, PC gamers are just coping and seething about the Switch 2's, like, enduring success.
Harmon, the only thing that's over is your hairline. It's just time to let it go. Just shave your head, move on, accept that you're balding, and I guarantee you're going to be happier.
You know, they don't want to talk about, like, the backwards compatibility, how your entire Switch 1 library carried over to the Switch 2, how, like, the storefront is improving.
Harmon, we are not going to congratulate Nintendo on doing backwards compatibility. I understand for you this is the actual first console that's had backwards compatibility, but we're not going to sit there and applaud Nintendo for doing something that is a requirement nowadays. That is the bare minimum to do for a company. I'm not going to applaud Nintendo for doing the bare minimum.
How, like, you know, there's just so many things you can do on Switch, while PC is becoming more and more limited all the time with, like, you know, pirates and hackers going straight to prison.
If you're talking about people playing your games on an emulator, I do not know of a single person that has gone to prison for emulation. I could be wrong. Can someone please let me know down in the comments? But I cannot find one. So Harmon, if you know of someone, can you please send me the information so I can sit there and tell people to not do this so they don't go to prison?
Right? Like, again, it's becoming more prevalent that, like, the entire farce of the PC master race is just collapsing all around us, and yet you have, like,
Harmon, There are more PC players than there are of all the consoles combined, so try again.
Handful of like dedicated hardcore fanboys doing everything they possibly can to keep the narrative alive. And at this stage, that's the only group of people I'm seeing doing this. You know, it's not Xbox fans, it's not PlayStation fans. It's like I don't really see anybody spurging out about the Switch 2, trying to gaslight people into thinking it failed.
Harmon, just because they're not holding it up in such high regards like you are doesn't mean they're saying that it's going to fail. I don't know of a single person that said it's actually going to fail.
Other than PC gamers, right? These are the people who are just trying everything they can to like ruin this console launch for everyone, discourage people from picking it up. And
Harmon, you don't need the PC players or the Sony people or the Xbox people to do that. You do that on your own. People like you fanboys are the ones that are causing all this to happen.
Deliberately lying to people about like the console, you know, like a really good example of this is this idea that like, oh, you can build a gaming PC that's more powerful than a console.
You can, Harmon, especially a Switch 2, and I'm not trying to bash the Switch 2 or anything, but the PS5 is more powerful if we look at the hardware. Then when you sit there and look at a PC, they can make one more powerful than the PS5.
And it's just like, you're gonna have to future-proof it, you know, you're gonna have to like keep maintaining it, you know, like PC is
Harmon, that is true. That is 100% true. Yes, you have to keep updating it. But where's the lie? Where is the lie that is more powerful than a Switch 2? You sat there and said that people were lying about the system, and a good example is that you can build a PC more powerful than a console. That is true. Harmon, if you're trying to prove your point, you are literally arguing against it. You are literally doing my job for me.
It's far more expensive in the long run than a console. You know, like PC gamers would dispute that because all of them are pirates, but like it is absolutely true.
Not every PC gamer is a pirate, Harmon.
You know, it is more affordable, more cost effective to simply just get a console for video games and just stick with that. There's no reason.
I have no idea if that's true or not. I have heard that that is actually cheaper in the long run for your PC, but I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that.
And that's just the long and the short of it. And the simple fact of the matter is, like, these people aren't playing games at all. You know, these people aren't like excited about like the future of video games and like.
Yes, they are, Harmon. Try again.
Interested in trying out Mario Kart World or like experiencing the Switch 2. Like, they'll do everything they possibly can to downplay not only this Nintendo console, but all future Nintendo consoles. You know, just like they spent all of last generation downplaying the Nintendo Switch. And
no, they weren't sitting here downplaying the Switch like you say you are. You're being very disingenuous. Just because you're willing to lick Daddy Nintendo's booty hole doesn't mean that everybody else is.
I won't be acknowledging these people anymore. You know, like, I have no respect for them.
Harmon, I'm going to speak for all the PC gamers. So if PC gamers, if you have no problem with me speaking for you, I don't really think any of them actually care about your respect, to be honest. And you know what? You're going to continue talking about them. You can't help but talk about them. You don't know how to keep your mouth shut, Harmon.
You know, like, what about them is even worth like acknowledging or even really talking about? You know, like,
Harmon, if you don't want to sit there and acknowledge them, then stop talking about them. You can't go a week without even mentioning something about the PC gamers or even referencing them in some way or another.
They deliberately tried misrepresenting the Switch 2's launch period as a failure for Nintendo.
No, they didn't, Harmon. From what I've been seeing, they've been pointing out that it's not selling out like a lot of you fanboys thought it was going to. I remember many of you fanboys sitting there saying, oh, it's going to sell records, it's going to sell numbers, it's going to be sold out. That's what you fanboys were saying. And then now we're starting to see the consoles on the shelves, which actually I think is a good thing. You don't actually want to sell out and be sold out all the damn time. You do actually want a steady stream of supply. That is actually very true. But Harmon, they're not trying to sit there and say that it's a failure like you think it is. That's all in your mind.
And trying to say all the games failed, that no one likes them, and that Nintendo is doomed, and that's like, the reality is so like, is
Very true, Harmon, because where you're hearing this stuff is all in your head. It isn't in reality. Well, that's it for my reaction. Let me know down in the comments if you agree with me or not. Please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, stay vigilant.
For the consumers lost in the shadows